Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Adrienne Ross Show, the basketball edition. Smash the subscribe button, please. Like and share. Okay, during the live stream of the WNBA draft lottery on Sunday evening, someone asked the question. I believe it was April Gaines. April, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm right, so I'm going to say it as if it were you, and you can let me know if it wasn't you, but for now, it's you. I'm pretty sure it was you. April Gaines asked the question in the chat. I addressed the question and other people made comments as well. And I found it interesting because it's something that I had thought about before, but I'd never talked about it. It never came up in a chat or, as far as I know, in a comment in any of the videos. I don't even know that I heard any of the sports media personalities break down what this means. The question was, how do you define a generational player? And I'm pausing on purpose because I want you to think about it. And I want you to think about it because many of you are using the term in the comments. We're hearing it all over the place right now. And I'm not even just talking about basketball. A generational player can exist in other sports. And in fact, when it comes to basketball, we've heard the golf media, the golf players use the term generational player. I just heard it last week when I tuned in to watch Caitlin Clark participate in an LPGA event or events. Generational player. I went back to the chat so that I could try to find exactly how April phrased it, but I couldn't. But I do remember it asked for the definition of a generational player. And I find that interesting because I got to tell you, I have never heard that term. I had never heard that term before the NCAA tournament in 2024 with Caitlin Clark and the Iowa Hawkeyes competing in the Final Four, and then moving on, Caitlin did to the WNBA draft and to the WNBA. I don't recall ever hearing that terminology before. Now, I may have missed it, but I don't recall it. But now, every day, generational player. Caitlin Clark, generational player. I don't hear anybody else's name in the WNBA, past or present, with that adjective. Well, that's a noun, really. Generational adjective, player, noun, the English teacher, right? Generational player, the adjective generational describing the noun player. I don't hear that about anybody else. So here's what I said a generational player is. And you got to tell one another in the comments how you define a generational player and who, besides Caitlin Clark, because for the most part, people agree she's a generational player. Now, you don't have to agree, so you can disagree. But besides Caitlin Clark, for those of you who believe that she is defined as a generational player, who else fits that definition in your mind? Now, I said well, I wasn't in the comments, I was talking. I said when that question appeared in the comments that I see a generational player as one of one. Like they're totally unique. This kind of player comes along once in a generation. Some might even say once in a lifetime. There's no one else who compares to what this athlete does. This athlete raises the bar exponentially. And this athlete, as we say, another phrase we're hearing a lot, actually moves the needle in some way. And somebody put in the comment, this kind of person changes the game, doesn't just participate in the game, isn't just good at the game. I would dare say isn't even just great at the game, but in some way changes the game, moves the needle. So I can agree. This is what I say. This is what a generational player is. This is how you would define that. And so I would say, absolutely right, Caitlin Clark is a generational player. Now, the conversation went in the live chat to Paige Bueckers because we were talking about the draft, and Dallas obviously got #1. And so people were talking about Paige. And someone had said, well, Paige is not a generational player. So I'm a question asker. I'm going to throw that out there. Is Paige Bueckers a generational player? What do you see as a generational player? And this also made me think, because like I said, I had never heard the expression before. Now, go back to the beginning of the WNBA. This is 28 years ago, okay? The first players to sign with the WNBA are Cheryl Swoops and Rebecca Lobo. You know Rebecca Lobo, she does the commentary now. She calls the games. Those two were the first to sign with the WNBA, followed by Lisa Leslie and Ruthie Bolton Holyfield. So those were the beginning of the league. First one signed. Now, moving the needle, changing the game. One could then say, by that definition, that your Cheryl Swoops and your Rebecca Lobo, followed by the other two, Lisa Leslie, Ruthie Bolton Holyfield, one would say they moved the needle. They changed the game. There was no WNBA. This was the first league, from what I understand, that the NBA put its full backing behind for women. The first one. They had the Olympics in 96, right? The league was founded in 96. First season was 97. So can we say that Cheryl Swoops and Rebecca Lobo are generational players because they did what had never been done, and that is get the NBA and get the media to get behind it and to make a push for it. For Nike to get behind it, I need to show you guys some of the old commercials. Nike used to go all out with these commercials. They were so good. What are they doing now with Caitlin Clark? My goodness. But anyway, I digress. But could we then say this is what you call generational? Cheryl Swoops had enough of their interest, and Rebecca Lobo and Lisa Leslie and Ruthie Bolton Holyfield. And some of you are going, I know you're going, who's Ruthie Bolton Holyfield? I don't know who that is. She was a part of the beginning of this league. So how do you define a generational player? Are there any players, even now, alongside Caitlin Clark, who would fit your definition of generational player? Now, I haven't even said the player I think, and more than I think, certainly was the most impactful player in the WNBA at the beginning. And that is Cynthia Cooper. Cynthia Cooper ended up being Cheryl Swoops' teammate. Cynthia Cooper had been playing for years over in Italy, and she just wanted to play in the WNBA. And she came in older than some, came in along with Cheryl Swoops, won the first 4 championships of the WNBA. WNBA Finals MVP for all 4 of those finals appearances, and I believe. She was the MVP of the league twice, I believe. Scoring champion a couple of years, I think. She was actually the scoring champion of the league for 3 years. Some of those I'm not 100% sure, but obviously she won the 4 championships. She was finals MVP 4 times. She was league MVP twice. I mean, Cynthia Cooper came and did work. I think better than Cheryl Swoops, better than Rebecca Lobo for sure, and did her thing. And yet, I don't hear her name in conversations about generational. I hear she's one of the GOATs. You hear people say that, oh, that's one of the GOATs. They start talking about one of the GOATs, but generational is a term that we don't hear often. Is Caitlin Clark sitting in that seat by herself? And can Paige Bueckers, still in college, be considered a generational player? And maybe she Maybe she will be. I don't know. I'm throwing her out there because we were just talking about her, and I've heard people say, I saw someone said she's not. Other people are talking like she's definitely in that category. How do you define a generational player? And is there anybody else you would say is a generational player in the WNBA right now, or even those who are part of the formation of the league? What do you think? I don't know. Maybe it's an odd question. I'm an English teacher and a writer. I'm into words and phrases and what they mean. And I'm hearing it all the time. And I had never heard it before, which kind of might say something that it was never even said before about it. Anyway, who are the generational players associated with the WNBA? That's what I want to know as far as what you think and how do you define generational player? I'm just going to leave that right there. You guys get in the comments, you talk about it. And I don't know. I'll check in and see what you got to say because I'm curious. All right. Again, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so. I'll catch you next time, God willing. God bless you. Bye.